Corey Miller, known to many of you as C. Murder, has spent more than a decade in prison, and up until a few days ago, he wasn't sure if he'd ever get out. A key witness came forward recanting his statement. In an affidavit, Kenneth Jordan said Jefferson Parish deputies pressured him to lie by holding an unrelated charge over his head. Jordan said he knew Miller did not shoot and kill a teenager 16 years ago, but he said detectives told him to say otherwise.
What's up, y'all? This is C. Murder. I'm locked up. I'm an innocent man. I'm still fighting this case. They're gonna let me out. They're gonna let me out eventually. But I'm an innocent man. I'm telling y'all straight up.
Of second-degree murder again. Rapper C. Murder will spend the rest of his life in jail. But will today's controversial verdict be overturned by an appeals court? WDSU News reporter Travis Mackel is live at 10 to tell us why some say yes.
Well, Chris, C. Murder's family and friends say they believe this conviction will be tossed out after they appeal. But one legal analyst says, not so fast. Emotions erupted as rapper C. Murder's family members spilled out of the Jefferson Parish courthouse.
No, if I want to make me lose my other brother, an innocent black man!
A jury found C. Murder, whose real name is Corey Miller, guilty of second-degree murder for killing 16-year-old Steve Thomas at a West Bank nightclub in 2002. Miller's family cried foul after the verdict was read. Do you think this will be overturned on appeal?
Oh, absolutely, to be overturned on appeal, without a doubt.
The reason? Monday afternoon, jurors told Judge Hans Liljeburg that they were deadlocked. Liljeburg ordered the jurors to continue deliberating. That carried into Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, the jurors told the judge that a female juror slept during some deliberations and kept quoting the Bible. That juror asked to be removed. Liljeburg denied it. Then the jury reached a guilty verdict, only to have the judge not validate the verdict since one juror was crying, saying she wasn't sure.
Judge Liljeburg sent the jury back, kind of calmed them down, advised them that they should not feel pressured.
3 hours later, the final guilty verdict came in. One legal analyst says the judge's actions will not lead to the conviction being overturned.
Not only was it extra cautious, he did the right thing when the jury allegedly saying that he had some problems with the verdict. So what he did, sent them back to further deliberate. Very experienced judge. He did the right thing, and I don't see it as an issue. Really, I do not.
When the verdict was read, there were about a dozen sheriff's deputies inside the courtroom. Corey Miller didn't say a word as the verdict came down. Chris?
And Miller will be sentenced on Friday.
Now, if you want to follow the persona and believe the media, C. Murder has always been a wild dude. Well, it's like coming into something from nothing gives some of us street dudes a sense of invincibility. It's like we've seen it all. But it's an incident that occurred in 2001 that would come back to haunt C. Murder in May of 2009, where he would go on to plead no contest to 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder. Those charges are going to be from an incident that occurred in Baton Rouge, in which C. Murder will fire 1 shot, after which the semi-automatic pistol that he had jammed at the owner and the bouncer of a nightclub who refused to allow Miller entrance into the business with the gun. Miller was sentenced to 10 years with time served for that crime. Just wow. But hey, what other millionaire has an apartment in the projects?
I'm gonna get in there, y'all know that a price.
My spot right here on Fairgate Day. That's where I live whenever I'm in a CP3. I ain't never left the day, but let's go upstairs and just chill for a minute. I'm gonna get in there, y'all know that a project. If I could keep the word, 9 minutes. Let me give y'all a grand tour right quick today. Visualizing foods dying quicker. Murders in the hold of every killer. Take a look. Rent, $75 a month. You know, I'll be scraping up trying to get that. Good to see that me in danger, cause I know I'm dying soon. 25 years. It's a coastal region. You know, I feel safe, I feel comfortable. It's a place I just want to be, you know. Chill, trying to get paid, still on the ring. This is where I'm from. I was born in, raised here. Play basketball here.
Thinking back about the situation, I always thought that maybe having a brother as successful as Master P in the music business put a certain amount of pressure on his brothers, and that forced C to resort into the only life that he knew.
That's beautiful, brother. Now, you are actual brother.
Yeah.
And Master P is your brother, too. Now, do you folks at home, y'all knew that, too? Did you know it? You all knew it? Well, I need to read a little bit more, because that was news to me. Now, do you call him Master P, or y'all call him by his real family name?
But one thing's for sure,
You just call him
if
P.
something ever popped off, C Murder just seemed like the one that you probably needed to worry about.
So Silk the Shocker, what's that name? What does that mean, Silk the Shocker?
I mean, I'm gonna shock the world, you heard?
You wanna shock the world, all right.
You have a few fans in here.
So now C Murder, C stands for?
Well, you know my name, Corey.
Corey, okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's all good.
Being a millionaire, a lot of people would question why C Murder would spend so much time in the hood. Learning to know him, he seemed like a genuine person that wanted to stay close to his roots, and a lot of people will fault that for his downfall.
It's the crib, the living room. You know, I like to keep everything, you dig, on that level, you heard me? You came a long way from the project, man. Stay dedicated to what you do. You just come with the job, you know? Look around, man. It's free. Go in the icebox. Y'all need something to eat. It's cool. Anybody want some cookies? Get your cookies. Get your hand up, man. Give me about a good 30 minutes. I'm gonna whoop up something real nice for y'all to eat, you know. I'm a chef too, you dig. Y'all still here?
Backstory behind the sentencing. In 2002, 16-year-old Steve Thomas was killed at a nightclub in Jefferson Parish. Days later, Miller was arrested and charged for the killing with second-degree murder. In 2003, a jury found him guilty of that charge, but the judge overturned the conviction. In 2009, during the retrial, Miller was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without parole.
Meanwhile, in Louisiana, just 200 yards from the Mississippi River, in the jail cell that has been his home for nearly 3 years, Corey Miller sits waiting on a retrial for the murder of a 16-year-old boy in a nightclub shooting.
This is Jefferson Parish Correctional Center. You know, they got me for a second-degree murder, something I didn't do.
To many, Corey is not behind bars because he's a killer, but because he is the well-known rapper C Murder, infamous for his stark rhymes of violence and killing.
But you better play a call. Your law and your paw. My temper hot like Tom on the block, posted up with them things loaded up. And if them people pull up and tell my boy to free, buckle up, knuckle up, screaming CP3.
This man was demonized from literally the day he was arrested. The chief law enforcement officer of Jefferson Parish makes a statement to the police that this is a man who's living his name, C Murder. He's living his lyrics.
But prosecutors say the stage name fits like a bloody glove. He's a killer. The verdict in the new trial will hinge on the jury's perception of who sits before them. Corey Miller, artist, or C Murder, homicidal thug.
To have my name used against me since I've been arrested, you know, it hurt. You heard me? It's because it's like, I'm guilty for I'm innocent.
New Orleans and Miami are just two battlegrounds in what has become a war of values.
Race does play a factor in a lot of these cases. You have prejudice in every department because people see these guys making a lot of money, driving a Mercedes-Benz that they could work 20 years and never get.
To some, the conflict is as much a class struggle as a racial one.
Hip-hop spits truth to power, and very often those in law enforcement represent a protective force for those who are in power.
Police would be focusing on hip-hop like never before. One of the first to react in 2001, 7 years after Tupac Shakur's conviction on sexual assault charges, another thug rapper found himself in trouble with the law. After nearly 3 years in Jefferson Parish Correctional Center, Corey Miller remains behind bars on charges of second-degree murder and the killing of a 16-year-old boy.
This is happening to me because, first of all, I'm C Murder.
And in New Orleans, that means many things to different people. The brother of rap superstar and mogul Master P, Miller carved his own niche in hip-hop. Corey Miller forged his gangster image in the grim Calliope housing projects in Central City, New Orleans.
Basically, just coming from the project, the police gonna profile you as a criminal, as a crook, as somebody that's about to do wrong.
On the night of January 12th, 2002, Miller went to a rap contest at the Platinum Club in this empty bowling alley across the river from New Orleans.
The night of this incident at the Platinum Club, I went to have some fun. I went to the club. There was an incident. There was a shooting.
Steve Thomas, a 16-year-old who had sneaked into the club, was struck and killed.
I had no part of it. Once the shooting happened, I left along with 100 other people, you know, and left, went about my business.
6 days later, Miller was arrested for the murder, although police possessed no physical evidence connecting him to the crime.
The evidence that they had to lock me up was none. There's no evidence, no forensics, no ballistics, no gun, no nothing.
No calls to the police reporting the murder were made at the time, and different witnesses recall vastly different characteristics when describing the shooter. Nor the suspects were pursued by police. Jefferson Parish police refused comment on the case.
A name was given to the police as the person who had committed this murder. And I can tell you that from my review of what was purported to be the entire police files, there's not any indication that any steps whatsoever were taken to follow that lead as to the identity, as to whether or not this person was the real perpetrator.
On the indictment, Miller was also charged by his stage name, C Murder.
By the time I went to trial, they came up with 3 witnesses.
There was not a single witness who came to this trial and testified before this jury that said they ever even saw a gun in his hand.
To Miller and his attorney, what the state had really put on trial was the stage image of C Murder.
For me to be in a situation, because my name is C Murder and I'm on a murder charge, you can't put both of them together and just off top assume that I'm guilty.
The prosecutor pointed to C Murder and said, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is his name, C Murder." Now, if a person got a name, C Murder, you know that they must be guilty of murder. That's wrong.
At one point during a bond hearing, C Murder's blunt lyrics were read in the courtroom.
What does his lyrics have to do with whether or not he should be given bond? So does his profession, does his line of work, does hip-hop play some role in these things? Apparently it did to these folks.
It was not the first time that a rapper's lyrics were used as evidence against him.
Not only is it outrageous and prejudicial to have somebody in a trial to have lyrics read from a song and use that in some ways as evidence of your guilt, but it also turns on its head the whole idea of the presumption of innocence in our criminal system.
I think that's ridiculous. I think that's like me, that's like Robert De Niro getting a ticket and me, reading a line from Goodfellas. It makes no sense.
Well, people, they ask the question like, well, do you feel like rappers have a responsibility, with their lyrics? No. Their only responsibility is to make it as hot as you think it could be.
But to police, the literal nature of rap tracks makes them potential evidence of a criminal state of mind.
If you are saying in your rap lyric that you are going to kill or are responsible for some form of violence that took place, and that violence did in fact unfold in the manner in which you're talking about, then I think the police have the very right to use those lyrics.
The combined effect of the C murder image and the testimony of the 3 witnesses against him was enough to sway the jury. Miller was convicted of second-degree murder.
In C. Murder's case, you see an example of grossly unfair use of the First Amendment as evidence to convict someone.
My conviction was really, they took my soul, they took my life to put the community at ease.
The mandatory sentence for the conviction was life in prison. While the verdict was the subject of angry debate in New Orleans, throughout hip-hop, a larger question was being asked. Was rap itself being targeted for a takedown? A smoking gun would soon appear. Then, troubling discoveries about the handling of the C murder trial added credence to the idea that rappers were being targeted for prosecution. Hidden from the defense team was the fact that each of the 3 key witnesses against Miller had themselves been facing charges. Offers had been made reducing or dismissing their charges in return for their testimony. Miller's defense team immediately appealed for the verdict to be set aside. Equally disturbing, a major piece of conflicting testimony had been reported to prosecutors but never made it to trial.
And one of the witnesses came forward and said, well, it wasn't him. I saw a guy who it was. It wasn't Corey Miller.
When she was questioned by the police, she told them that although she had never seen Corey Miller with a gun, she had seen someone else. And in fact, she said that she was shown photographs by the police and that she identified a person in those photographs as the person she had seen with the gun. She said the police told her they weren't interested in that person. They were only interested in Corey Miller.
Based on the new information, the trial judge overturned the verdict and granted a new trial.
Ultimately, the jury's verdict was set aside by the court because the court found that the police and the prosecutors had massively violated Corey Miller's right to a fair trial.
Corey waits on his next day in court. Prosecutors say the outcome will remain the same. But he wonders if it will be his turn in court or if once again it will be C murder and all of hip-hop on trial.
They're trying to stop us all together. I mean, is it a bigger picture? Is it this is the first step to something you're trying to do to us in the future? Maybe end it? You got to start thinking like that because, look, it's real out here. It's real.
It's really in the condition of the people.
Guys, C Murder and I talked for about 15 minutes, and I asked him how he's made it through all these years. He told me his daughters keep him going. He also said he's grateful to all the fans who support him, and now he says he's grateful to that witness who came forward.
This is a call from Pandora, Louisiana Department of Corrections.
I'm not gonna lie, these last 16 years have been a struggle.
Corey Miller, known to many of you as C. Murder, has spent more than a decade in prison, and up until a few days ago, he wasn't sure if he'd ever get out.
I've been snatched away from my family, from raising my game, and from my career, from everything. And I just want it back.
A key witness came forward recanting his statement. In an affidavit, Kenneth Jordan said Jefferson Parish deputies pressured him to lie by holding an unrelated charge over his head. Jordan said he knew Miller did not shoot and kill a teenager 16 years ago, but he said detectives told him to say otherwise. Now, all these years later, Jordan says he wants to right his wrong, and Miller forgives him.
I want him to know I'm not upset with him, and I'm proud of him. And me and my family, my daughters, especially, we thank him. For real, I mean, it's a life-changing moment.
He says for the first time in a while, he has hope that he may not die in prison. And he's glad his family, friends, and fans continue to fight for his justice.
I always had to smile. Since I've been locked up for 16 years. And I just want them to know that my heart is smiling.
And C. Murder also told me, despite everything that's happened, he says he's not bitter. He also says he still has faith in the justice system, and he hopes the system will do the right thing. C. Murder told me until that happens, he's going to do what he's done these last 16 years. That is wait, pray, and hope for the best.
See Murder. I'm by Graham's house, your dad, big mama. We love her. We don't come rags, we rich. We about to show y'all how we live it. Dang.